Hi there everybody, this is David and welcome to the top 10 games that I regret buying. All told, I do think it's kind of difficult to say that I actually regret a purchase because each game does tell you something different and provides you with a new story. However, some games are definitely better than others, and that's what I want to talk about here, those other games. So my regrets include being hyped up for a game and buying it before I even knew what genre it belonged to, or buying games just based upon name recognition only, thinking that they were going to be similar to other games in the series. And let me tell you, I've been gaming for 40 something years now, and I have plenty of regrets. So let's start with number 10, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, released for the Nintendo GameCube and later remastered for the Switch and PS4. I was a Nintendo kid growing up with the NES, SNES, and the Game Boy, and I jumped ship over to Sony when Square did. So it wasn't until about 10 years later that I bought another Nintendo console, the Wii, which was backwards compatible with the GameCube. So I went back and I bought all sorts of RPGs for that system on the cheap. And one that I was really excited for was Crystal Chronicles. I mean, it had Final Fantasy in the title. How bad could it possibly be? Answer. It, along with all of its ilk, are just an abomination upon the series. You know how escort missions suck? Imagine an entire game that's nothing but one long, drawn-out escort mission. And if you don't want it to be that, you have to play with friends. I play RPGs so I don't have to play with anybody else. Whenever I game, I want to be left alone, preferably with a better game than this one, too. Number 9, 13 Sentinel Aegis Rim, released for the PS4 and Nintendo Switch. This is what I get for jumping on a bandwagon without doing my due diligence. Everyone was talking about what a great game this was and asking me if I had played it, and I really hadn't heard of it at all. But I ran out to the game store to pick it up based upon the hype. It was only then, whenever I got home, that I realized that I got completely bamboozled. I was told that this was a strategy game, but it's actually 10% strategy and 90% visual novel, along with some sort of point-and-clicky, choose-your-own-adventure thing, which I'm really not a fan of. I can deal with the whole visual novel thing if I can understand the story, but I'm old and I'm dumb. The 13 separate stories just didn't make any sense to me, and I couldn't keep up with the Japanese names and honorifics. I was just so confused. Then there's the multiple time periods, a keyword system, multiple paths through one story, and just so much going on that rather than me becoming invested, I was just turned off by the whole thing. Number 8, Atelier Rorona, released for the PS3, Switch, PS4, and PC. The Atelier series, or as I used to call it, 8-Liar. Yeah, I know, I can't pronounce anything. But anyway, I loved Atelier Iris and Manny Kamiya back on the PS2, so I was thrilled whenever I learned that the series was going to be continued on the PS3. And yeah, I knew that Iris and Kamiya were spin-offs of the mainline series, but I guess I didn't realize how much of a spin-off they were until I picked up Rorona. Then, I was hit like a ton of bricks with the most crafting I've ever seen in an RPG before. So much so that I think it's solely responsible for my hatred of crafting today. Then, there's the double whammy of time limits so strict that if you're not glued to a guide from day one and following it to the letter, then you're going to be completely screwed out of the best endings and the good scenes too. It just wasn't a fun experience. It felt more like work and like a long list of chores to do than a game. Number 7, Valkyrie Elysium, released for the PS4, PS5, and PC. I loved the original Valkyrie profiles, so there was no one more excited than me when this was announced last year. Unfortunately, Square took everything that was great about the originals, threw it in the trash, and turned it into just another dead, drab, boring, empty, and generic action RPG. It almost feels like a tech demo, like they were just testing things out and got too far in, so they just decided to make the main character a Valkyrie, slap the title on it, and then use the hope and pray method that it would sell on name recognition alone, because really, there aren't any other redeeming qualities. It has nothing at all to do with the rest of the series. Metroidvania, exploration, and turn-based combat is gone. Multiple party members are gone. Interesting characterization in death vignettes. Gone. Towns are nowhere to be seen, and Asgard's empty as well. There's just one long depressing mess of a game. I really just would have been happier with like a fond memory than with the series ending like this. Number 6. Code Vein, released for the PS4, Xbox, and PC. Similar to the aforementioned 13 Sentinels, this is another game that the comments section was circle jerking. So stupid old me went out to the game store to pick up this supposed great action RPG. I mean, personally, I hear action RPG and I think something similar to Secret of Mana. But that's not what I got here. Not by a long shot. About 5 minutes in, I found out that this was actually a Dark Souls game in disguise. To say that I was disappointed is an understatement. The world is a post-apocalyptic hellhole, and it's hard, like super hard. I was dying in 3 hits. I don't have the patience for that anymore. I dealt with my fair share of hard games back on the NES, and I don't want to put up with that unfair, brutal crap any longer. I play games to unwind, to relax, to kind of have a little bit of cathartic, brainless time. I don't play them to be frustrated, pissed off, angry, and to want to throw my controller out the window. And that's what I wanted to do here with this shit-ass game. Number 5. Final Fantasy IV: The After Years, released for the Nintendo Wii, PSP, mobile, and PC. Final Fantasy IV was one of my favorite games growing up. I have played and replayed the adventures of Cecil and Kain more times than I can count. It is easily up there as one of my favorite games in the entire franchise. So whenever I heard about a sequel to be released on the WiiWare, I was giddy with girlish glee. I couldn't wait to experience more adventures, to go spelunking into the underworld, and take off to the moon. But that's not what I got whenever I downloaded the game. Instead I got a cheap, completely unbalanced cash grab that forces you to grind for hours on end, and what little story there was had almost no relation to the original cast of characters. I think that I purchased about 3 WiiWare episodes until I just said screw this, and I moved on with my life. It wasn't until I got the complete collection for the PSP that I actually played through the entire After Years. But not because I enjoyed it, it was really just out of spite. Number 4. Rogue Galaxy, released for the PS2. Level 5, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. For the most part, I love everything that they touch. And with Rogue Galaxy, I thought that I was going to be getting an action RPG with the same graphical style of Dragon Quest VIII, but set amongst multiple planets, kind of similar to something like Star Ocean. So I was all about this. So I went out, picked it up on release day, only to be greeted with the most unbalanced gameplay I've ever had the displeasure of suffering through. Here's how it goes. You get hit by an enemy, you lose half your HP. You get hit again, you lose all your HP except for 1, so that the 3rd hit kills you. That's battling in a nutshell. And your brain-dead, idiotic party members don't help out either. And then the further along that you get, the more frustrated you're going to be as the dungeons go from bland and boring to just downright infuriating. This could have been a diamond in the rough, but man, it's just rough. Number 3. Luthia, The Ruins of Lore, released for the Game Boy Advance. Picture it. 2003. You're in the middle of college. You're recently out of the closet. You don't have much money, and a game releases for a portable system based upon one of your favorite games of all time. Back in the day, I could really only game on break at work, and Luthia 2 was such a gem that this was the one shining beacon of hope in my dreary, awful life. Only, all my hopes were dashed after I got it. This takes place in the world of Luthia 2, but it doesn't even follow Maxim's descendant Jaren. It just follows 3 brats, and the world map is really the only similarity that you see to Luthia 2, as all the towns have changed, and you can't traverse that overworld. It's all connected regions. Then the dungeons just take forever, and the god-awful, horrible, unbalanced job system taken straight out of Dragon Quest VI just ruins the whole thing. It had all the bones of a great RPG, but they made every bad decision possible, and it took my bad depression that I was going through and just made it so much worse. Number 2. Dawn of Mana, released for the PS2. As far as I'm concerned, this could go down in history as the most disappointing RPG that I've ever played. The Mana series was a childhood staple of mine, so I was pleasantly surprised when Square announced that they were revisiting the series with a World of Mana, which included real-time strategy games for the DS and Dawn of Mana, a prequel to the series. I couldn't wait to see the origin of Mana unfold in front of my eyes, and I ran out and I bought this on day one. But how this game ever got beyond playtesting is beyond me. First of all, you don't fight normally with like a sword or anything. You fight with this horrible Havoc combat system, which revolves around like kicking crap all around the screen. Then there's the camera that actively fights against you, and as the cherry on top of this dead-ass stupid tree, you're reset to level 1 at the end of every chapter. This is the most horrible mess of a game I've ever had the displeasure of playing. But nothing's worse than our number 1, Fragrant Story, released for the 3DS. While Dawn of Mana was a horrible game, I do think that a scam is even worse. This was supposed to be the last great RPG for the Nintendo 3DS, harkening back to Final Fantasy Tactics. I even went so far as to feature it in a video, and I bought the collector's edition for $75. But wow, what an absolute scam this was. Instead of being some grandiose story filled with multiple levels, job classes, chapters, and wonderful characters, you get 3, count them, 3 shitty stages, and a game that lasts no longer than 10 minutes. If you think that I'm joking, I'm not. That's literally it. It's pretty much, oh no, the flower people are being attacked in the first stage, and the second stage is going to the evil wolf's castle, and then the third stage, killing him. And each stage lasts about 2 minutes, with maybe 5 enemies each. The 8-minute review that I did of it pretty much doubled as an entire Let's Play. I've never felt more bamboozled and swindled in my entire life. So, that's it for the top 10 games that I regret buying. What games do you regret getting? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video and wanted you around the channel, please consider following me over on Twitter, supporting me on Patreon for exclusive videos and early access to my content, heading on over to Twitch for some streaming fun, or coming on over to my Discord to chat and hang out. The links to them all can be found in the video description. This has been David, and if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.